The hospital already agreed to forgive that bill years before you walked in writing, filed with the federal government. That's the reason the building pays no property tax and no income tax. It was a trade. Forgive the bills of people who can't pay, and you stop paying taxes like a business. The hospital kept its half. It wrote the policy. It filed the paperwork. Then it mailed you a number with a due date and said nothing about any of it, because that number on the envelope isn't what your care cost, not what your insurance pays, not what the man in the next bed paid for the same procedure. It's a starting figure, and somewhere in that building sits a document that can cut it or erase it, and nobody there is required to mention it to you. Stay with me, and I'll tell you what it's called, who actually qualifies, and the sentence that makes it appear. Because the only thing standing between you and it is that silence is free. So who ends up paying a number that nobody ever checks? Meet Claire. Her daughter came off a trampoline on a Saturday. Emergency room, X-ray, 3 hours, a splint, home by dinner. 11 days later, the envelope arrives, and the number on it is $4,200. Claire has insurance, she's got a steady job, and she does what almost everyone does. She believes it, the way you believe a price tag in a store, because it looks like one. It's printed, it's itemized, there's a due date and a payment link, and nowhere on it does it say this is our opening figure. So what is that number actually? It comes off a list the industry calls the charge master, and it prices everything the building can do to a human being. Here's the part that should stop you. Almost nobody pays those prices. Your insurer doesn't. Medicare doesn't. The hospital agreed separate, lower rates with every insurer years ago, and a different rate again for people paying on their own. Federal rules now make hospitals publish all of it, so there's no such thing as the price of your daughter's X-ray. There are a dozen. They can differ several times over between two buildings in one city, and which one lands in your mailbox depends on paperwork nobody showed you. Claire thinks she's holding the bill. She's holding one option out of a dozen, and that gap is about to cost her 4 years. So let me open my own books, because I'm the one who signs them. Nearly 6 in 10 community hospitals in America are nonprofit, not charities the way you're picturing. These are enormous businesses with executives, marketing departments, and cranes on the skyline. What makes them nonprofit is a tax status, and that status is worth a fortune. The value of the tax exemption for nonprofit hospitals came to about $28 billion in a single year. About half of that is federal. The rest is state and local, property taxes on all that land, sales taxes, local levies, gone. Legally. So what does the country get back? Here's the deal, and it's worth saying slowly. In exchange for that exemption, a nonprofit hospital has to provide community benefit, and the piece that matters to you is charity care, free and discounted care for people who can't afford the bill. That isn't generosity. It's the rent on the tax break. Now put the two numbers side by side. Exemption, $28 billion. Charity care actually delivered that same year, about $16 billion. The tax break was worth $12 billion more than the free care that justifies it. And I'll be fair, because this is a real business. Hospitals count other things toward community benefit, and some of it is genuine. Teaching, research, losing money on Medicaid patients, emergency rooms that never close. But the specific promise, the one you can hold them to, is the free care. Every one of those buildings has a document spelling out exactly who gets it. Federal law requires it to exist. You've never been handed one. Would you like to know why not? It's called a financial assistance policy. Every tax-exempt hospital in America must have one in writing, and the requirement has teeth, because a hospital that ignores it is risking the exemption itself. The policy has to cover emergency and medically necessary care, state who qualifies and how much they get, and be public. So who qualifies? Here's where most people disqualify themselves for no reason. Researchers read the policies at nearly 3,000 nonprofit hospitals. The cutoff for completely free care ran from a fraction of the federal poverty line, the government's official low-income mark, all the way up to 6 times above it. 6 times. The middle of the pack is double the poverty line, but the spread is the story. 2 hospitals, same state, same size, same patients, and one erases a bill that the other one sends to court. There's more in there than income too. About 2/3 also weigh your assets. And here's the provision almost nobody knows exists. 7 in 10 offer help on hardship. which means the size of the bill can qualify you even when your income never would. The typical trigger is a bill worth more than about a fifth of what your household earns in a year. Now read that back as Claire. She earns a normal salary, and she decided in about 1 second, without checking anything, that free care is for people with nothing. But that cutoff isn't a law of nature. It's a number a committee in that building chose. It might be 6 times the poverty line, and there's a second door beside it marked hardship. So why has nobody ever said any of this to her? Because nobody has to. And this is the whole video. So let me be exact. A national nonprofit that does nothing but help people file these applications surveyed patients who looked eligible. 51% never applied. Asked why, the most common answer wasn't pride, and it wasn't paperwork. They didn't know the thing existed. And from the other side of the counter, 52% said their hospital gave them no information about financial assistance at all. Added up, and only about 29% of patients who qualify actually receive it. 7 out of 10 eligible people pay, or try to pay, or get chased for a bill the hospital's own policy says they shouldn't be paying. Now you'd assume that's because giving it to everyone would sink the place, so the same group costed it out. What if every eligible patient just got it? Automatically, no application at all. The answer, on average, was a 0.7% fall in revenue. 0.7%. That's the price of doing the thing that tax exemption exists to buy. And even that overstates it, because chasing people costs money too. So it isn't affordability, it's friction. The eligibility exists. The money is budgeted. And between you and it sits a form you were never handed, named in words you were never taught, from a department that'll process it the moment you ask and will never raise it if you don't. Nobody's breaking a law here. It's a business model with a very quiet default setting, and if you never find the form, that's where this stops being about one envelope. Here's what happens to the bill Claire doesn't pay and doesn't appeal. It ages. Then it leaves the hospital entirely, handed to a collection agency. It isn't a medical bill anymore. It's a debt on your credit file. How common is that? Medical debt is the single largest category of collections in this country. Not credit cards, not car loans, medical. At the last full federal count, medical bills accounted for $88 billion on Americans' credit reports, spread across 43 million of them, and making up 58% of every collection account in the system. One thing you may have heard about that has changed. A federal rule was written to strip medical debt off credit reports altogether, and a court struck it down in July of 2025. It isn't in force. What does still stand are the credit bureau's own voluntary rules. Paid collections come off, and anything under $500 goes unlisted. Above that, unpaid, it reports. So how far can this actually go? Further than most people picture. More than 2/3 of hospitals have written policies permitting them to sue patients, including some of the most respected names in American medicine. Investigators counted tens of thousands of court actions over 2.5 years of lawsuits and garnished wages. And when a hospital wins, which it usually does because most people never show up, they can take a quarter of your paycheck. So follow the chain. A number arrives that was never really a price. Nobody mentions the policy that could have erased it. Years later, a court is taking part of your wages over a bill you may never have owed. Every step is legal, and one form, near the beginning, breaks it. So what do you actually do with that envelope? 4 moves, and the order matters more than any one of them. First, don't pay anything yet. Not a deposit, not a good faith $50. I know that feels wrong, but paying signals that you can. Some policies treat a paid bill as settled, and you can't unring that bell. Waiting costs nothing. Paying early can cost you the whole discount. Second, call the billing department and ask for 2 things by name. An itemized bill, the long version with a code beside every line, not the summary you got. And their financial assistance policy. Use exactly those words. Financial assistance policy. Not do you offer any discounts, which invites the word no. They're required to have that document and required to give it to you. And asking by name changes the conversation. Third, and what if you're certain you earn too much? Apply anyway. Remember, the cutoffs run as high as 6 times the poverty line, and hardship can qualify you on the size of the bill instead of your income. It's usually a short form and some proof of income. The worst outcome available to you is a no you already had. Fourth, and this one's a hard legal right, not a favor. If you're uninsured or paying without using insurance, you're owed a written good faith estimate before scheduled care. If the final bill lands $400 or more above that estimate, you can dispute it. You've got 120 days. It costs $25. And while that dispute is open, they can't send you to collections. And read the itemized bill when it comes. Not to understand every code. You won't. To catch the obvious. A day you weren't there. A procedure that never happened. A charge that appears twice. None of that is negotiating. You're not asking for a favor. You're asking a tax-exempt institution to apply a policy it already wrote, already filed, and is already funded to honor. Claire made the call. Both documents, by name. $4,200 became a form, the form became a review, and the review came back at $380. So what actually changed? Nothing about her life. Her income on Tuesday was her income on Monday. Somebody finally said the name of the document out loud, and that was the whole difference. They were never hiding it. It's on the website. It's in the federal filing. It's the reason they pay no tax. They just don't lead with it. And a system that helps you only if you already knew what to ask for isn't a safety net. It's a quiz. You just got the answer sheet.